Here we have verse 1 of the 22nd chapter of the Gospel of Matthew. We're in the midst of a series of 3 parables that Jesus gives to the religious leaders. They have triggered this conversation by asking what right he had to do the things he had done, especially cleansing the temple the previous day. So Jesus declines to answer their question because they have not answered his question about John the Baptist. But then Jesus proceeds to pronounce his judgment. These 3 parables would constitute what might be called a judicial opinion, in which he's giving the rationale for the verdict that he's going to pronounce, and is indeed pronouncing, on the city, on the leaders, on the official religion, which had, of course, committed treason against him. The first parable, the 2 sons, highlighting those who respond favorably and those who don't. The first son claimed to be obedient but was not, and that becomes the focus of the second parable, the parable of the vineyard, in which these tenant farmers were claiming the vineyard as their own and abused and finally killed the servants and indeed the son himself. And that brings us to the third of these parables now, the parable of the wedding feast, which really shifts the focus to the more obedient son, while at the same time reinforcing the judgment that falls to the first of them. And so it's introduced here in this verse 1, kai, the connective, apokrythes, this is the aorist participle of apokrynomai, answered. It would be strictly rendered as having answered, but usually it's just stated Jesus answered and said, or sometimes it's omitted altogether. But it's idiomatic, pretty common. We have ho Jesus, the subject of the participle, so Jesus having answered, paulen, indeclinable adverb again, apen, from lego I say, third person singular, aorist active indicative, he said, in paraboles, in parables, so continuing the parabolic style of teaching, autois, speaking to them, dative, the third person pronoun in the plural, masculine, legon, actually this technically is the same word as this, he answered, saying to them in parables, saying, but this is the present participle, so he spoke to them in parables, saying, and then this, of course, introduces the parable itself, which will begin in the next verse.